awesome.
Awesome.
That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No,
You're awesome.
no.
You are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I'm your host, Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. Now, this week's guest, if you didn't listen to last week, then you don't know who he is, because this is part 2 of our conversation with him. And as I said last week, this is a man who I consider a good friend of mine. And years ago, I was in low spots of my life, going back 6-7 years ago. And he was one of the guys that was there for me. He was an awesome dude then. He's an awesome dude now. As long as I've known him, he's been really cool. And I couldn't be happier that he agreed to do the show. I couldn't be happier that we got, 2 parts of the conversation out of this. And as I said last week when I kind of did the pre-intro to the show, I was late in posting it because I was afraid of what happened during it, and that the guest, I felt that the guest was getting irritated with all the technical difficulties that we had, and a smile came across my face re-listening to the show and editing it, when really we only had issues maybe for the first 20 minutes, and after that, things got better. He totally didn't care, you could tell in the interview. No, we don't have to bury the lead anymore. C-Robb, Chris Robbins, 100 Acre Woods Chris, whatever you want to call him. He's back on the show this week to continue our conversation about wrestling. And I'll tell you what, this is a show where we don't go off topic. We don't go on wild tangents here and there. We pretty much stick to wrestling from the start of the show last week to the very end of the show this week. We get a little bit into some other things, and if you didn't listen to us last week, make sure you pay attention to July, the month of July. You can head to FHAA.org. That's F as in Frank, H as in Henry, A as in Apple, A as in Apple.org to check out more information about the Carole Yeager-Ellis softball 8U coach pitch tournament that C-Robb is the director of and runs and puts together every year. It's such a cool thing, and if you live in the Bucks County area, please check it out. That's all he's asking you to do. He's not really asking you to do anything else. And it's for a good cause. So FHAA.org. Make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes. And while you're there, drop a review. Reviews help get more eyes on this show. There's some sort of equation that iTunes has. And I would just love for more people to listen to this show so that y'all can hear how awesome these other people are. We've had creator of worlds on the show. We've had, an author. We've had a former baseball pitcher, a former wrestler now, and coming up on the show that, we have a couple other podcasters that do tabletop RPGs. We have an activist, an AIDS activist coming on the show. We have a lot of cool guests coming up. I'm booked up till the mid-May with shows. So it's going to be a good time here on Everything is Awesome. And I really just want people to listen to it because all these people are kind enough to come do this show. And I just want their stories to be heard. There's no reason. They're not really here to promote anything. Everyone's coming to just sit down and have an awesome conversation. And I want more people to be able to hear that awesome conversation right here on awesomepodcast.com. In case you don't hear me at the end of the show, make sure you check me out on Twitter at HHWST. You can check the show out on Twitter at That Entertains. And as I said, you can find all the podcast goodness on awesomepodcast.com. Now without further ado, let's just kick it back right to our conversation with C-Robb now.
John Cena drives me nuts, and it's always been that way.
I hate John Cena.
And oh no, he did. Remember that night? But that's where I wanted to take it. So we're out there, we're running down the crowd, and I knew a lot of my friends from Little League were there, and so I wanted to use that in it because I had just a few months prior, I just stepped down from being on the board of the Little League. And so one of the comments I had said, because, I knew I had over 50 some people there watching me that were there to see me more than anything. And so, of course, I come out and I'm getting cheered. And so I said, I don't need you people to cheer me to know how good I am. Besides, you guys are a terrible judge of character. I said, if there's one thing I know about this town, is you wouldn't know hard work, determination, and I forget what the other part was. I said, if it sat on the board of your local Little League. And all my Little League friends were, you could just see, they were dying laughing. They thought it was hysterical. But we ran them down. And, you know, Bruce and I, we put on an okay match considering how rusty the two of us were. We put this match on. Of course, we cheated to win. So now the crowd really hates me already going out there. We go to do the match with the midget. And, you know, Chucky's in the ring, and he doesn't have an opponent. And I come out, and I said, you don't have an opponent tonight? I said, I don't mind doing double duty. I said, but, actually, first I said I'd offer him a spot in the club. And I gave him all these things that he could be. And I was like, but I think those are pretty tall tasks. And, you know, I did a whole array of short jokes to him. And at one point, we even did the thing where he went to come at me, and I put my palm on his head and held him back, and he's swinging, and he can't get to me, you know. And then we had a good time. You know, Montoya got in. He did some stuff with him. Why I got on the outside of the ring, and then Sir Style came in, did some stuff with him, and then finally I get in and we're wrestling. And you know, I remember I said to him in the back, I said, at one point I'll pick you up for a body slam, and as soon as I get you up, I'll just walk around the ring with you. And he's like, dude, I'm really 190 pounds, and I'm like, there ain't no way, I ain't even 190 pounds. Till I went to pick him up,
and he was 190.
That motherfucker was 190 pounds. So I just gave him, like, it was like the Lex Luger Yokozuna slam.
Okay.
You know, because I really wasn't, you know, that strong at that point. And but so at the end, you know, high note, and I remember he didn't want to do it. His finisher was a Samoan drop, so he hits me with a Samoan drop, and in the back when we were talking about it, he's like, and then I'll just, you know, roll you up and pin you. And I'm like, no, man, I want you to stand and put your foot on my chest to pin me. And he's like, no, that's going to make you look weak. I'm like, no. Just put your foot on my chest. I said, send them home happy.
Yeah.
I said, because they're going to be so happy to see you win. And so he did it, and it was by far the loudest pop of the night.
Nice.
Was him standing on my chest. And so then we get to the April show, and the April show was just a debacle. There was, if there was 50 people there.
Was it at the same place?
It was at the YMCA, but it was during the day.
Oh.
During
Weekday or Saturday weekend?
On a Saturday. During soccer and baseball season. 2 weeks after soccer and baseball started, or at least baseball started.
Yeah.
And but the YMCA promised Moose the World that, you know, there'd be over 1,000 people at this event. And ironically, the YMCA is trying to sell their property now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they're not being run successfully. But anyway, so it was just a flop. We had this, the whole show was kind of a giant cluster. Originally, I was supposed to wrestle Redding, just me and Redding one-on-one. And we were gonna set up a feud with that show that would eventually culminate in a ladder match at the October show, which would have been the anniversary show. And it didn't work out. And at the end, the main event was Short Sleeve Samson versus Shovelhead Chuck, and we came out and made it look like we were going to go after Shovelhead Chuck again, and instead we just beat the hell out of Short Sleeve Samson, and then Moose came out because Fred had joined Evil Iron, and Moose came out, and which, you know, I felt bad for him. He kind of rushed himself. He had just had surgery to repair a torn bicep that he tore at the April show, or not the April show, the February show. And he rushed back to do that, and it was just, it didn't work out. And I think a lot of it had to do with frustration on the fact that the gate was so small. And and then after that, he was trying to get a school together, and it just, a lot of things just didn't work out. But we ended up doing one show at the school, which was a nightmare. It was a boxing gym, boxing and MMA gym. So we were working in a boxing ring, which has no padding, no give, no support, nothing. And it was either that or for a couple nasty bumps that I took when I had wrestled Bruce in February. But all of a sudden I started feeling numbness in my right arm. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, right side, you know, completely numb, and found out last February that I have 2 ruptured discs in my neck. Oh. So as far as any wrestling career that I have moving forward, it's going to be just a character role, no wrestling or refereeing. So, but you know what? I'm 36 years old.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. You know?
I mean, it's like, so when I saw the basket and the flyer, I guess that was in the basket or whatever, at the Frankie thing at JoJo's, and I saw that the UWF stuff, I was like, oh man, it's like, I'm not in shape. Like I was legit like 240, which was the heaviest I've ever been in my life. And I was like, if I want to get down, I was like, because every year, usually around like March or so, which was like March was when the FTW started back in like 2001. So usually like once a year around March, I think about it. I'm like, man, I would love to get in the ring one more time. Like I just think about it, and like to the point where I'm like, who would I wrestle, and what spots would we do and stuff. And so I thought, like when I saw that flyer in the basket, I was like, I'm gonna do it. I know I guess at the time I was 30, so I'm 31 now. But I was like, all right, 30's not too old. Like I know it's gonna hurt, but like one time, like if I can do it one more time, that would be great.
Yeah, but do you remember how we were after our match?
Oh my god! And so what we're referring to is PTCW, Primetime Championship Wrestling, which was what you, me, Tom, and to a lesser degree D'Angelo kind of formed. And we got the NWA, was it?
Yeah.
To back our license in Pennsylvania, and I forget all the shows. I mean, I probably have it saved on a hard drive somewhere because I have like the designs for the flyers. Like I have all that. Resurrection was the next show that we were going to... No, Resurrection was the show that we did, right?
Yeah.
And then there was Shockwave, maybe? I don't know. I have all the stuff for PTCW saved. And I remember setting up the ring and it like being like a pain in the ass and kind of hurting. But I remember because the first thing of the night was a battle royal.
Yeah. And
then it was our match was the main event. And
whoa. You can't skip over. You separated my shoulder.
Yeah, so, and was that during the promo?
That was during the promo right after intermission.
And so we did this, it was heel versus heel. Because I was playing, you were D-Rob, like officially, like because that was a joke that I think we started on the podcast.
Yeah, that started on the podcast.
And then I think you wrestled as D-Rob.
No, Dick Robbins.
Dick Robbins, okay.
Home record, Dick Robbins.
Yeah, that's right. Home record, Dick Robbins, at the PTCW show. And my finisher, the Stainless, which was...
$1 Million Dream.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Into a...
it was
into the stroke.
Yeah.
Basically.
It was, and what? I didn't let go when I should have.
Yeah, no, you didn't let go of my arm at all.
And but we made it through that.
Oh yeah. We made it through that.
And that was like that. I mean, I made it through probably better than you, but that show, that will probably always go down as my best match in my career because it was it was the most experience I've had at that point. And even though in between PTCW, which was in 2009, the last time I wrestled was probably in early 07, late 06, because I broke my ankle in, I think, 2007, and I didn't really wrestle again after that. So I was like 2 years of ring rust. You were probably on at least a year, because I forget, like the last FTW show before that, I don't, maybe 08, but...
Yeah, but I did a couple...
okay.
A couple of the NWA
yeah.
Black and Blue shows for Fox.
Yeah. And then so when I call that FTW still, the Black and Blue shows, like because that was still a lot of FTW guys. I wrestled, I think, only one Black and Blue show, and then I broke my ankle. And I mean, at that point, Fox and I weren't the same. Like our friendship wasn't the same. We weren't buddy like we were back when we started FTW. So like Reckless and Montoya became like the other heads of running NWA Black and Blue / FTW.
Yeah. Well, mostly Montoya. Reckless didn't really get involved with the behind the scenes stuff, but Montoya was very influential.
Yeah, yeah. And so I kind of I was taking a back seat anyway to anything I was doing. I mean, when it was FTW was when I had quote unquote influence, because it was, it's just that's what it was. It was all the FTW guys. We didn't have anyone outside, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, I'm not a great wrestler by any stretch of the imagination. I can just, with certain people, work a good match.
Yeah.
And like I said, to this date, if I look back at all the matches I wrestled, like that's easily the best match of my career. And but I remember breaking down the ring afterwards. So 09 is what, 6 years ago at this point. So I was 25, 26, and it hurt to carry just one beam, just one piece of wood.
And we had to carry it all the way around the freaking building. Yeah. Which was a nightmare.
Yeah, it was. So for those that don't know, if you really want to try to make something succeed, as you've kind of demonstrated with the UWF, like, even though you're running it, you have to run it as the ring boys that break it down and set up, all the way up to the selling tickets and putting together a match. I mean, that's how FTW was for me up until Montoya and Reckless came in. I kind of, at that point, I think we had gotten rid of the warehouse. So
yeah,
at that point, and I kind of had taken a back seat. The FTW just was, it was just different time. People grew apart as we do. And then so I stopped wrestling right around my ankle breaking 07. But and then PTCW, which we had to the point where we designed our belts, just never got quotes for them. Well, maybe only the heavyweight title, which was put on you, and then right away,
and then quickly given to Fox.
Quickly given to Fox as Bullet 2, which he was originally against, if I remember.
He going out there, he wanted no parts of it. He's like, no, I don't want to do it. But because of, I don't even know what his reasoning.
I'm almost positive we didn't know.
But we had the crowd so hot, especially for being two heels. I remember my brother and a couple guys I work with that were there. They had said to me, if you would have just came out there and not ran down the crowd, you would have been the face.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh, really? But I wasn't trying to be the face. And they're like, everybody would have loved you. Everybody would have loved you. And I'm like, as cocky and arrogant as I was, like talking shit to the girls, you're not good enough to rub baby oil on me.
And one of my favorite parts of that match, which has nothing to do with you even, it was when I walked over to the table and got a bottle of water, and which I think I was told not to, and I just did it anyway.
No. You had asked, I remember we were sitting down going over the music with whatever the big dude's name was, Gino or whatever.
Yeah.
We were going over the music with him, setting it up, which they still ended up fucking up. But we were going over the music for that, and I remember you said to Tom, hey, did you ever talk to Gwen and see if she was cool with me spitting water on her? And he's like, oh, no, let me go do that now. So he went over and talked to her and didn't say anything to either of us. He told me after the match when I was getting changed, but didn't tell either of us that she wasn't okay with it. He's like, yeah, we're good. And so you go, you spit the water. You want to talk about the realest thing of the entire night besides you separate my shoulder. That was it.
Yeah, that I'm trying to restore that match because it was recorded on a DVD camcorder with the mini DVDs that I can't get to watch because I'm like, I want to pull this match. Like, it's been forever. I mean, I'll watch the whole thing, but I want our match specifically.
Yeah, but you don't have a thing a DVD player?
It won't even play in the camera. Yeah, it won't even play in the camera. When you pop it into a DVD player, it can't read it because it was never finalized, I guess. So, like, it's an old school one. So I have to take it somewhere and say, restore it. But it is that was a good night. I enjoyed it, despite the separating of shoulders and the pain afterwards. That I know if I were to do it again today, I'd wake up tomorrow. I wouldn't want to wake up tomorrow. I can just imagine that how it felt for you over the last few years. At mid-30s doing it.
Well, after the second show, I was great. I felt great afterwards, but after the first show, I was like this.
Yeah.
I couldn't move my neck. If I needed to turn and look, I would have to turn my whole body, and it was so bad. And I think a lot of it came because I was supposed to do a spot where Bruce was going to clothesline me over the top rope, and he came at me so soft, like barely touched me, and I tried to get over, and I just kind of like hung my head over the top rope. It was ugly. And then there was another spot in the match where I was on the outside and I'm talking crap to the crowd, and I go to turn around and he's supposed to bring me in the hard way, and just the timing was off. Like it didn't work the way, like he pretty much just grabbed the top rope. He didn't push it towards me. He just kind of grabbed it and pulled it towards him. So the timing was off. So, and instead of him bringing me in the hard way, the way that it was supposed to go was I was supposed to roll through. And then once I rolled through, I was just going to run, shoot off the ropes, come back at him, and hit him with a drop kick.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out that way. He pretty much brought me in the hard way. And but when I came in, I bumped him on my way over, and so when I landed, I actually landed on the bottom rope. So yeah, it didn't feel too good, but we got through the rest of the match. I mean, I was even able to pick him up, and he wanted to do one of them DDTs like Ziggler does, where he kind of jumps up and you got to hold him up and then swing him down. And, we did one of those. It was cool. But I don't know. One of the things that I was really big on when I came back was European uppercuts. Like, I didn't want to throw punches. Like, punches are so basic, and everybody does it. And everybody uses it as a film move. And there's so many ways, and it's funny because I was so big on doing it, and then you look at what Cesaro does, and or what he was doing before he got hurt, and that's what he does. The European uppercuts, which are so much better than punches.
So let's we'll segue into some WWE talk now that you kind of mentioned it. Unless you have anything else you want to talk about with your career?
Well, no, I know, and I haven't. Moose and I haven't finalized any of the details yet, but he is going to be doing another show, April 23rd.
Okay.
He hasn't finalized the location. That's the date he wants to do the show. None of the details are worked out, But so I'm interested to see what my new role is going to be in UWF.
When you know the more details, because this the way this show airs is we record a bunch and ahead of time, so this will probably end up airing in January ish.
Okay.
So if you have details by then, I'll tag it onto the show.
Okay.
So April 23rd, if you're from Levittown, which that's something that I think is missing, like on a somewhat regular, and maybe it's missing from a regular basis because you get shows that are huge one month and then the next month they're small.
Yeah.
But I remember I guess it had to be the UWF in the 90s that was almost every month, or maybe it was I don't know.
It's like every month, every other month, something like that.
And that's something that I think is missing from here, and maybe it's no one really digs wrestling anymore in this area, but I loved it when I was a kid, and it is. I mean, hell, until I saw that flyer in the basket, I had no idea that UWF was back. I mean, since I was wrestling in the FTW, 01, I mean, there was in 01 there wasn't much. There was the UWF, which I don't think was every month at that point. I think it was much less often.
Yeah. Well, our goal when we started back up 2 years ago was to run every other month, because running every month it's too difficult. And I had reached out to Frankie's mom and asked her about running a show for Frankie where all the money would have gone to Frankie. And I was going to have the guy that records all the shows, I was going to have him come in early, and I was going to invite, say the show starts at 6 o'clock, have Frankie come in at like 4.
Okay.
Spend 2 hours with all the guys, everybody, sign autographs, just hang with them. And I was going to have the guy that films everything, film it all, just so it was something that, knowing that, his life was going to be so short, that something that his mom could have. To always remember that day. And like I said, all the money for the show was going to go towards him. I had sponsors that were interested in sponsoring the show, so that for the most part, it wouldn't have cost anything to do the show. So everything made at the gate would have gone towards Frankie. And the YMCA, they screwed us on the date, and they gave it to another company that a week before the show ended up canceling the show the week before, probably because they weren't selling any tickets, because there was nobody on the show. Nobody that anybody knew. You could Google these people that were on the show and you would have no clue who they were. You wouldn't find anything. And but so they put up a roadblock, and then trying to find another venue was very difficult. Couldn't get another venue, and I had some guys. It wasn't just the normal UWF guys that were going to be working the show. I had guys from Jersey Championship Wrestling that I'd worked with in the past, working for Damien Dragon up in North Jersey. Quite a few guys lined up for the show, and unfortunately I ended up having to cancel it. But this was going to be, even though it was going to be under the UWF banner, it was going to be all me, running the show. And unfortunately it didn't work out. And I guess, I don't know if it was a blessing or a curse, but ironically, like, I'd say 3 weeks before the date that the show was going to be was when Frankie passed. So it would have been tough to
go with
to do that show. 3 weeks later. Especially with the conversations that I had with Frankie's mom. Before that, and how grateful she was that I even thought and considered to do it. But actually, you're saying the basket thing that actually was Hope for Hannah. That was
was that Hope for Hannah?
Yeah, that was Hope for Hannah, not Team Frankie.
We go to most of the events we try to go to there, and because I mean, I don't follow it. I'm a terrible human being. I'll admit it. But Jen follows all that. Like,
I can't.
yeah, it's well, and that's I mean, I don't not follow it because like I emotionally, but when I do read, like, I don't remember reading about Frankie passing. I'm sure I did, but I remember reading about Hannah passing. Like, I was following. That's when I didn't follow the page because I didn't want it in my news feed. Not because of the dick, but I just didn't want to see it pop up. Like, I wanted to be prepared for it. So I was looking through the news through their Facebook page, like the week or the couple days that they were saying, like, it's it's any day now or whatever. And that got me. I mean, I'm a monster if it doesn't get me emotional.
Yeah.
But so that was so friendly. I think they're like now. I think I actually follow the page, and I see every now and then like they're still like big in the government, like trying to get something passed for the screening if it hasn't already passed or whatever. But that's good. There's not many people or organizations that like go out of their way like that. Like, I mean, I guess more so your local businesses will. But it's great that you thought of that.
Yeah.
For both Frankie and Hannah.
That's not the only thing that I do to, as far as like charity stuff. I run, even though I'm not affiliated with FHAA anymore. I run every summer. I run a softball tournament down there for girls 8 and under. I started it selfishly. I'll admit, selfishly, I started it because when I was down there, Maddie had wanted to try out for All Stars, and I said, when don't we have a girls All Star team? And they said, no, not at this age group. Little League doesn't do All Stars at this age. And I'm like, really? They don't do All Stars at this age? So I was upset about it, and I said, I'm gonna start a tournament. So I approached the board and I said, I really want to start this tournament. And they're like, okay. And there was a woman who, a few weeks before, she was heavily involved with the Little League. So a few weeks before this conversation came about, she had passed away from breast cancer, left behind 3 girls under the age of like 14 or 15. And so I said, I'd like to name it after her.
Okay.
Do this tournament, and all the money that we make through this tournament can go into this scholarship fund for her daughters. And I got full support of the board, and I called this woman's mom, and I got full support of her and her family. And so for the last 4 years, I've been running this tournament, and I actually the last couple of years I've actually taken off from work the week of the tournament, so that the fields are nice, prep. This year, I created my own logo for the tournament. It looks like the breast cancer awareness ribbon, but when you look closer, it's actually a girl getting ready to pitch a softball. So,
cool.
Which I have tattooed on my leg. That's how much the cause means to me. I've had Susan G. Komen comes out every year and participates just to raise awareness. And this year, the tournament when I first started, there was only 4 teams. This year, I think I had 9 teams participate.
Oh wow!
So $350 a shot plus all the concession. That's a lot of money going into the scholarship fund.
That's very cool.
So, but this year, Amy and I decided that we were going to take $250 of our own money, and we hired, I don't know if you're familiar with him, Matthew Schuler. He graduated from Pennsbury a few years ago. A couple seasons ago, he was a contestant on NBC's The Voice.
Okay.
And
the name sounds familiar, and I think I remember this story.
And so we hired him to come in and sing the national anthem for it.
Cool.
And, we joke, but, you're saying about the technical difficulties you were having here. The PA system up there is the least sophisticated thing. It is so terrible. And you want to talk about a true professional. This kid, Matthew Schuler, comes in, sings the national anthem. I think he gets like 3 words into it, and the microphone starts cracking, and he just kept going. muscled through it, and it was awesome. It was a cool experience. We had a lot of teams. I can only fit. We have 3 fields. I could only fit 6 teams, but all 9 teams showed up for the opening ceremonies of the tournament. Awesome. Her mom was there, and 2 of the daughters and a cousin was there for the opening ceremony. So it's a really cool thing. And I told when I stepped down from the board a few years ago, before I did, I said to the president or the 2 candidates potentially for president of the Little League, I said, look, before I decide whether or not I want to step down, if I can't run this tournament every year, I'm not stepping down. I would have gotten divorced, but because Amy just won, and I don't blame her. I couldn't take her out for a date because I couldn't afford to pay a babysitter, but because I was paying a babysitter because I was doing things for Little League.
Okay.
So
that is, when you're on the board, I guess a job in itself.
Oh yeah, it's a huge. I mean, that particular year was the worst because Maddie wasn't playing softball at the time. She didn't want to play softball. She wanted to do dance, and so we ended up having a team that nobody wanted to coach, a softball team that nobody wanted to coach, and none of the parents could step up because of their obligations with their jobs or whatever. So nobody was willing to step up and take this team, no matter how many times I begged. And being the softball commissioner, you got a softball team without a coach, guess what? That's your job. So, there I was coaching a team. And I say that I was spending a lot of money and a lot of time away from my family coaching this team. I wasn't even coaching practices. Like, my assistant coaches, they handled practice, but I had to be there for games and stuff like that. And, in hindsight, could I let them take care of the games? Probably. But I couldn't depend because of their schedules. I couldn't depend on them to be there all the time. So I had to do it.
Trey started practice t-ball. He plays at American.
Yeah,
you can see my dirty Yankees hat over there. He played American, and I signed up to assistant coach because I'm me. I'm not super into sports. I know I like watching football and baseball, but I'm not I don't know the rules. Especially I never played sports as a kid, so I don't know Little League rules at all. So but practice t-ball, dude. I don't know. It's so boring. I don't know if they had that in Fairless Hills or.
No, they did not.
It is literally.
I would have shot myself.
I didn't know that's what it was because he started at he'll be 4 in January, which means he has to do it one more year. I'm
lucky.
It's so awful. I mean, it's not it's cool, it's fun, and he enjoys the kids and the actual. We're gonna be on the same team as we were last year, at least for the coaching staff. To be all assist and the other guy will head. But I'm not. I don't dive into it like you did, on the board. He played soccer this year, and not a 3-year-old's game at all.
Nah.
But they emailed me and said, there's the U4 director position's open, which I think he'd still be on because I think U4 is 4 or 5-year-olds, and so I was like, maybe I'll get super involved. I was like, wait, I know less about soccer than I do baseball. But yeah, and that's I don't have time as it is to do what I want to do on top of parent and coach and whatnot and go out with it.
It's a huge commitment, and a lot of people don't realize how much of a commitment that it is,
Yeah, and it's as long I want to be on the field with the kid. I want him to see and her when Aubrey starts playing. I want to be a coach. I want to be able to show them I'm here with you, blah blah blah. Probably never on the soccer field again until he's older, but which oh god. I'm telling when I say it's awful, only kid that's crying. Though, did any of your kids play fall soccer? Falls Township soccer?
Maddie did, but she was older. She was 8.
Okay. Did they? So was that legitimate games and stuff?
Yeah, that's legitimate games.
So,
and she hated it. After the second game, after the first half, she came up to me, because they do snack at halftime, and she came up to me and she's like, "Daddy, I don't want to do this anymore." And I'm like, "Kiddo, you you committed to it.
Yeah.
You need to stick with it. And so she, ironically, the coach said to her, "Hey, Maddie, do you want to play goalie this half?" And she's like, "Sure." And she went out there. She did a great job. And after that, she loved it. But then afterwards, she's like, "Yeah, this isn't a sport for me."
Yeah, Trey. The problem with U4, not the problem. The great thing about U4 is that they hire like a trainer. Like like dude was from Ireland, like had the Irish accent. So that's great because like Trey learned a lot. Like like when I tell him do a U-turn, like he knows what I'm talking about, and like give all the.
I don't know what you're talking
you
about.
You step on the ball and you kick it back, and you turn around and get it. But like it was cool. I don't know. I mean, there's probably a soccer term for it, but for 4-year-olds they call it U-turn.
Yeah.
He had one excellent week where he participated the full hour, and then, but before that, or maybe after that, they took a week off for pictures, and then the second week Columbus Day was off. So then after that, like it was just a terrible week in and week out. He got used to it again one more time, and then we just took him out for 1 week because we wanted to go have breakfast with Santa at the mall. And then the last week, it was only I think 8 games. The last week was the first time he had a true meltdown about wanting to go, or not wanting to go rather. And Jen and I talked, and we're like, well, I mean, he's not going to get a medal, so he doesn't deserve it. So let's not go. It's fine. Blah, blah, blah. I'll go and get my money back. But maybe when he's 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, so we were going to segue into WWE. Do you have to? What time is it?
Nah, we're good.
Okay. Segue into WWE real quick. I really don't watch much anymore at all. My brother-in-law has the network for his kids. They actually got me back into it. I went and saw WrestleMania last year at their house, and I don't catch Raw at all, just because what time it's on, and by the time I put the kids to bed, I'm like, all right, I forget that it's on, to be honest. Let me tell you what I love that I know about. I don't know if it's still around, but from like the last year of trying, like, kind of getting back into it and like reading about it a little bit. Cody Rhodes is Stardust. Yeah. I love it. I loved it more when they were a tag team. Not so much now. I think I just read Goldust is back from his injury.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on? Because you'll have an answer more so than I do. Because I still think when I watch it now, or I catch a glimpse of it now, like it was better when Shawn Michaels was around. How's the product today on television compared to we'll say, what is it, PG-13 era compared to the No Attitude era?
To me, it's a clusterfuck.
Is it?
It really, it's so bad. You know, you have these guys that I'm sure they're workhorses, and I'm sure they're great guys. You know, from everything that you hear, John Cena is such a workhorse. He's such a company man, but he's stale, and he'll always be until they do something with him.
Heel.
And
I would love to see him turn heel,
but you're never going to see him turn heel.
Too much money.
And they're building Roman Reigns the same way, which sucks, you know. But you have guys like Kevin Owens, who is, I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I know the name, and he looks like he's a good
he
guy.
is. Him and Dean Ambrose both are so money every time they go out there. Like, just even in interviews, like I love watching his interviews. He did an interview, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. I don't remember who he wrestled on Raw, but it was one of those app exclusive interviews, and he's laying on, you know, those equipment trunks that they use. He's laying on an equipment trunk, and he looks over and he's like, why is there a camera in my face? And he turns and looks and he's like, oh, God. And it's JoJo's there to interview him. And he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. He's like, no, I'm sorry to interrupt. He's like, no, you're not sorry. You're not sorry. If you were sorry, you just wouldn't do it. You know, you can't apologize for something and then go and do it anyway. Like, he's so good on the mic. And he's going on, and they're going back and forth. And he's talking about how he's going to be the first person to become WWE champion and Intercontinental champion at the same time, which, as so many people know it's not true,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's funny to hear him say that. And then finally he goes, "Do you have anything else? Because your perfumes really bother me. If you don't have anything else, well then I'm out of here." And so he says he's out of there, but he's still laying on the trunk. So you're like, what the fuck's he mean? He's out of here. Well, here, the trunk must be up against the wall because he pushes himself off the wall, and you just see him roll out of screen. It's so fun. And Dean Ambrose, same thing. You know, he's with Renee Young in real life. I don't know if you're
I know
familiar
the
with that.
name. Yeah.
But so and she interviews him, and you can just tell, like, you can see the chemistry between them when she's interviewing him. And she's interviewing him a couple weeks ago, and he's talking about beating Tyler Breeze, and he's saying, you know, Tyler Breeze, he's a young bull, and the young bull wants to run down and talk to, or what's he say, and have conversation with one lady. But me, I'm an old bull. I'm going to walk down and I'm going to have a conversation with all the ladies. And he's going on and on, like, explaining it. And then he says to Renee Young, "So what did you just take from that?" And she goes, "That you're an old bull." And he's like, no. And he's like, what did you learn from that? And she's like, to make conversation with a lot of cows. And he's like, "You weren't even listening," and he just walks away. Like it's funny stuff. But
And that's like that's part of like the no. I guess even when we watched it, like in the we'll call it the PTCW days, but like 08, 09, like that where it was kind of PG-13. It was kind of going that way.
Yeah.
If not already there. That's what I liked. Like I always like the comedy DX stuff.
And they don't do that enough. And when they do try it, it fails. Jerry the King Lawler needs to go.
Okay.
He's terrible. JBL is fantastic. A lot of people give him shit. He is such a good heel commentator, and that's what I think is missing a lot from their product, because he's the only on the main roster. He is the only heel commentator. But then you have guys like Corey Graves down at NXT. For me, I would forego WWE. I still watch the pay-per-views. I still fast forward through, the main shows. I don't ever watch Superstars or.
I didn't even know that was a thing still.
Yeah, well, it's only on the network.
Oh, okay.
Superstars or main event. I don't watch them at all anymore. I just watch Raw, SmackDown, and I fast forward through them. But NXT,
I've heard a lot of great things.
So
about that.
they have this show called Breaking Ground, and it's like E60. You're familiar with E60 on ESPN. It's like E60, but it's all for WWE NXT, and that's what Triple H is doing down there. Is he's breaking ground? Like, it is the most groundbreaking professional wrestling. I won't say sports entertainment because I think it's just such a dumb fucking term, but he, what he's doing down there is great, and maybe on a higher level it wouldn't be as good. Maybe if it was being crammed down our throats for 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
7 if you include the B shows that you can only see on the network. But it's an hour a week. Their live specials are amazing. They really are. The talent that they have down there is so good, and a lot of it is because Vince McMahon isn't micromanaging what's going on down there. And Triple H doesn't micromanage it either. It's, okay, here's your character. Do something with it. If it works, great. We'll push you to the moon. If it doesn't work, then it's back to the drawing board. Mm-hmm. You only go back to the drawing board so many times, and then, good luck in the future. And that's how he is. And for the people who bust their ass and make it their everything, he gives them responsibility. Like Bayley, she's the NXT Women's Champion right now, and there was a thing online that he tweeted a few weeks ago where he's showing her how to produce a match. Like, they're sitting a gorilla position producing a match
Oh,
together.
that's
You know what I mean? Like
That's
he's so into it, and everything. His big thing is he is not about the mics, especially for somebody who's so good on the mic he was.
Yeah.
He's more about the like we have 1 hour to produce a quality show. Let's give it everything we have, and that's what he does, and it's phenomenal.
That's good. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about NXT. I mean, everyone that I've seen come out of NXT, that I've whether it's just I'll go on their website and watch clips a lot. Like Kevin Owens, I like a lot. But it seems like that's the real deal. Like they finally found something with their. Because I remember when NXT started, it started years ago. The Nexus,
I think,
right?
No.
Well, Nexus came from that, did they not? They were the first NXT class.
But that wasn't really. That was just a stupid reality show.
Yeah.
And those guys were from Florida Championship Wrestling. They eventually changed Florida Championship Wrestling to NXT.
Yeah.
And Vince McMahon said, "Here, Triple H, this is yours."
Yeah.
And that's when they developed the Performance Center, because Triple H and Stephanie, they're very big on, health and fitness. Yeah. And and they have. You get professional athletes. I've seen interviews from professional athletes in other sports that have, they're being interviewed at the Performance Center, and who knows? It could be scripted, maybe not. But they say, this facility is better than most professional sports teams. Yeah. Just what you have at your disposal down there it's game changing. And nobody will ever be able to compete. I mean, nobody can compete with WWE as it is.
I mean, what Impact is on its is that even on Discovery Channel now?
It's right now. It's on Destination America
with Global Force Wrestling, right? Is it it's?
I think they're tied in. No, Destination America also has Lucha Underground as well.
I know. Because Jeff Jarrett's doing something with Global Force, and I know they got on some TV channel, I think.
Yeah,
or they will be.
And I know starting January, TNA or Impact or whatever is going to be on a different channel, and I don't know. But
that's just
it's a sinking ship. It's like watching the Titanic. They had so many good things that they could have done. I mean, you remember what it was like when Hogan and Bischoff first went down there. It was like, oh, they're finally doing something, and it became entertaining, and then it just went straight down the toilet.
The wrestling. I mean, I blame my schedule for my lack of wrestling. Watching and whatnot now. Though I'll say the one thing that I really enjoy is the network. I don't do it often, but a lot of times I'll go on there to watch the stuff that I remember from the 90s, late 80s, 2000s. I every now what I don't like about the network is that you don't you have to wait X amount of weeks to see Raw. So that's the one thing I don't like. I'm not paying for it. It's my brother-in-law's account. So.
Yeah, but DVR.
I don't have a DVR. I don't know if you saw when you walked in. We have the 21st century version of putting a small TV on your box TV, because we have a 30-inch TV mounted to the wall and our 60-inch just sitting there because the 60-inch broke. We're waiting for the tech to come out to fix it, but I don't have DVR. We'll leave it at that. I'm trying to coax it into the, hey, DVR would be nice.
Yeah.
But I don't control the money. So, but I do I think you shared it on Facebook, the DX stuff that happened right around PTCW, where it was just Sean and Hunter. That's the stuff that I've been going back to a lot lately. See, I just kicked Stan!
Yeah. That was great.
That is one of my favorite bits. That when Hunter was looking for Sean at that office building, and he was the cook.
Yeah.
It's that stuff.
Kicked the little kid.
It's that stuff. Mike and I actually did. Do you remember the apology that they did around with the Spirit Squad? They had
Oh, see, I wasn't even watching it that much then.
Oh, okay. So it was around the Spirit Squad, and I guess it's when they first kind of reformed DX. I think it's was it 06? I don't know. I forget the year, but they they went and did like one of those press conferences that they did like back in the 90s, and were apologizing, and Hunter would just counter every apology like, why, this is dumb, like they deserved it, whatever. So Mike and I parried that for our YouTube channel to do like an apology about like the internet. Like we apologized to Epic Mealtime. I don't know if you watch any YouTube shows, but yeah, Epic Mealtime's like they're it's like an online cooking show. So we mimicked that, and like that was really cool to kind of relive those moments. Like that's what when Mike and I sit down to write like a skit or something, I really like kind of like go back and remember like a lot of the DX or any of the WWE funny moments. Like that's where I think my humor comes from is from that. Because I wasn't a stand-up kid. I wasn't really an SNL kid when I was little. I was more of an adult thing. But I do miss the old product.
I don't know if you remember back when I first started, with FTW, my ringtone, or not my ringtone, my voicemail message. Like if you called me and got my voicemail, for the longest time, my voicemail message, you would have to sit through the entire original unedited I guess like press conference speech.
Oh, I do
that
remember
Sean
that.
And Hunter did.
Yes, I do remember that.
And I used to get some very, very nasty messages, especially when people would call and have the wrong number. But hey, it is what it is.
That is, I remember doing because I think it was that. I don't know what I did, but it prompted me to be like, I want to do something silly like this in my voicemail. Can you imagine in your 30s doing that now?
Oh, God.
There's so many things that like, even that I still do like video. Like, not that I play video games often, but I'm like, every now and then I'll pick up a controller and play. And Jen and I were actually talking because I was like, can you imagine like in 20 years when the kids aren't in the house? Are we going to even be the same people? Like, am I still going to want to pick up a video game controller? She's like, yeah, you're a man-child. And it's what I realized, especially in this like in part of our conversation, but with Mike and I too, like I'm at that point in my age where when I go and hang out with Dave, we always talk about the past, but I'm just that old man that's like, let's talk about what we used to do as idiots.
Yeah.
And I'll just read one entry of this. This was well before you. But so I had a live journal. Do you remember live journal and dead journal?
No.
So it was before like MySpace and before Facebook and all that. And it was like a blog. It was just blogging, but like a diary and whatnot. So this is from 2001. I let me go to a different one because I read these on the show with Mike. But not only did I use it to compare like my writing now and then, I use it as like I was an emo. Like I don't remember being so emo. And here's the reason these are printed out in 2004. I think that's around when Mick Foley released his first or second autobiography, and I was super into wrestling then. Like I was like, I want to be a wrestler. So I printed these out for the autobiography I was going to write as a wrestler. So it's going to be very confusing, especially if I allude to anything. But I'll read one entry before we go today, because I think this is fantastic to go back and make fun of myself. Thursday, November 1st, 2001, 10:11 p.m. A long day at work. Today went pretty well, except at one point when I remember something my GF told me about a week ago or so. She told me one of my friends felt like they couldn't talk to me anymore. Email already. Because we don't hang out as much or something like that. I don't know why I remember that, but I do, and that bothers me. Because now it's like I have no one to talk to. No offense to any of my other friends. It's just that he was the easiest to tell things to. And he always had advice, whether it be bad or good. I kind of understand why he didn't want to talk about me cooling it with someone. But the fact is, I don't like that person. And if that person says something that I don't like, I will make it obvious. I don't like it. I don't know. I guess I don't know who my best friend is right now. Sure, I have best friends, but I'm not sure who the one is that has no circuits and whatnot. Oh well. I had to get that off my chest, because obviously I can't talk to anyone. Work sucked tonight. I had to... that's all boring. But
was that before or after you inserted your tampon?
right? And like that's not. And like what the other things that like baffle me was like the way I talked in some of these. Like I said gay ass a lot, or like that stupid bitch. Like I'm like, wow, I was that teenager that like just decided to talk like an asshole and very emo. I don't ever consider myself being an emo. And 2001 isn't that far off from when like you knew me. Like it was seriously probably a year later. Going back and reading shit like that has been my purest joy in life.
I go back and I read stuff like, especially now with Facebook, you get those messages like every day, 6 years ago you said this or you posted that. I read some of the shit that I posted and I'm like, oh, fuck. How long would it take to go all the way back through so I could fucking delete that off of my fucking page?
I have done that. Like I think like when I broke up with someone like years ago, I was like let me go through Facebook and just delete all the photos, delete everything. Yeah. And like so now every now and then I see here's a photo from 6-7 years ago, but it just says deleted photo. But yeah, like I didn't know because I have Time Hop, but Facebook also does Time Hop as you were mentioning. Time Hop doesn't show some of the stuff that Facebook shows. So like I'll get that. I'm like, what the fuck? I need to go back and delete this. It is because it's even though more so you, even though six years ago you were still in your 30s, like we were all. I guess I'm still immature to a point, but it's unbelievable that at 25, 26 years old, I was as immature as I was, and I didn't get my ass beat for it.
Yeah. Oh no, there's a lot of things that I remember. Oh, this is going to make me sound like such a dick. You want to talk about a C-Robb moment. I remember, I'm sitting in my basement, me and Sky Rick and Amy were sitting in the basement and we're watching, God, I forget what the movie was, but we're watching this movie and I don't know if I got a notification or if I was just scrolling through Facebook, just wasting time or whatever. And I see that Whitney Houston had died.
Okay.
And I'm not even going to repeat what I said, but it wasn't very nice. I know that at some point it was something about, that's one less druggie we got to worry about, good riddance or something like that. And in hindsight, I feel pretty bad about that.
I have gone from using Facebook is more so like every now and then I think I post a thought, but it's more so I'll post pictures and like a comment to that picture. Twitter is where, and I try not to do those emo posts there where I bitch about something on Twitter, but that's where I might rant about something. Like I was at Starbucks in the city, and like this customer was like giving shit to this employee, like short from calling her dumb was calling her dumb. Like, and the whole time while she's ordering, I'm ordering, and she's talking to the manager, belittling this girl who's probably first year college student or something. And to the point where like I went on my Twitter rant about that, like about the customer and being a slob or whatever, and then wrote Starbucks to say, listen, I was at your Philly store on Pine Street, and just want to let you know, like, I don't want this girl to get fired because she was doing her job right. Like, she was 100% right. She had a question about something that the customer had a question about that she asked somebody else, and somehow this customer went off on her. And I had excellent service from her. Like, I just want her to know that, as I know people are assholes in the world, and just let her know that everyone's an asshole. Yeah. But yeah, that's what, like, Twitter's where I rant now.
I don't use Twitter all that much. I did a little bit, especially when I was, when UWF was back in full swing and all that. But I don't really use it too much. Although I was at WrestleMania 29. Maddie and I went. Okay. I got her tickets for Christmas that year.
Is she into wrestling still?
So, fuck, I wish. She's into makeup.
Oh, she's like, how old is she now?
Oh God, she's 11 and a half, going on 16. And,
she's full on girl now.
Yeah, it's crazy, but so we went and I took a picture of me and her, and in the background you could see the ring and the whole contraption that they built around the ring, which I'm sorry, but I think it's just a waste of fucking money. Yeah. Like, there's pay the wrestlers now that they're not getting pay-per-view fees. But so I take a picture and I retweet it, or I tweeted it to Triple H, And I said, 14 years ago, I sat and watched you beat a monster at WrestleMania, and tonight my daughter gets to see you wrestle another monster. It's him and Lesnar.
Okay.
And I guess it was like 3 days later. Or I put thank you. That's how I finished it.
Yeah.
Thank you. 3 days later, I get a notification. And like I said, I don't ever use Twitter for anything. He fucking retweeted it to me to thank me.
Oh, that's cool.
Which was cool. And that's something that I'll always, hold dear to my heart, the fact that he and that's why I said fucking Vince McMahon needs to hand over the reins to him because he, as much of a dick as a lot of people say that he is, and I'm sure he is, but you don't get to where he's at without having a love for the business.
You can tell that you could tell 6 years ago. I mean, you could tell that for almost his entire career that he's loved the business.
Yep.
Especially after he not that him marrying Stephanie is the reason why he loves the business, but like you could tell, like just more so reading behind the scenes stuff like that, like his love for the business from that point forward.
I mean, when you think about him and his love for the business, you have to consider that he, after the curtain call, was hammered into the ground to where his position was going to be almost non-existent. I mean, you're talking about a guy who went through a plethora of shitty gimmick matches.
Yeah.
As punishment for the curtain call, like wrestling hog pen matches and stupid shit like that. But he didn't stop. He didn't give up. He kept going because he loved the business.
I mean, he went from curtain call, from being put through the ringer to almost running the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's like I said. I mean, you can see that. And I only know it partially, but like, you can see from NXT his love. Like, and I forget who. One of my buddies who's still into it. Like they talk about his love for NXT and how much he's into it and stuff. It might even be not even one of my actual friends. It might be a Facebook friend, Blue maybe, that talks about it often.
And Stephanie too. She's got a love for it. I mean, you go back to the last NXT special. I don't know if you watched it or not, but Bayley and Sasha did a Iron Woman match.
Oh, I heard about it. I didn't watch it
for the NXT Women's title, and in my opinion, their match at TakeOver Brooklyn was that could be a serious candidate for match of the year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The match was psychologically, technically, one of the best matches I've seen in a very long time.
And that's great that it's coming from divas, because that's what they need, stronger divas.
And it's because of that match and because of how much the fans are responding, both WWE fans and NXT fans, to them, that they got the main event spot at the last NXT special. And so they get that, and at the end of the match, final bell rings, and you can see there's Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Stephanie McMahon sitting in the front row. All three of them with tears rolling down their face. Nice. And then the whole locker room came out, because it was Sasha Banks' last match in NXT. They all come out and they're standing there, and Triple H is standing there, and Sarah Del Rey is standing there, and they gave both girls flowers, like it was a freaking opera performance. You know what I mean? They gave both girls flowers, and you could see Triple H was, seeing him that night reminded me of, you look back at the videos, like the night after Owen Hart passed away, and the night after Eddie Guerrero passed away, the Raw after. Like, you could just see he was emotional, but he was doing everything he could to hold it in and not cry. And that's just such a cool thing. Yeah. But I don't know. It's just the direction of the business at the highest level is going downhill, but at the lowest level of WWE, it's it's going straight to the top.
And we'll make this our final thought, because I think we've been going well over 2 hours at this point. But I think that, I mean, when you expand Raw to 3 hours, like, that's asking not only a huge commitment from your audience for 3 hours of their time, but you're desaturating your product.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, like you said, 5 hours of on network cable network television a week. That's a lot to ask for. And yeah, I mean,
especially when most of it's talking.
Yeah, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like that part. Like, that's, I mean, I'm a dialogue guy. That's why I like Kevin Smith movies. But I also, before I was a Kevin Smith guy, I was a WWF guy, WWE guy. So I also, I want to see the wrestling. I want to see a mix of it. I don't want to see nothing but talking. I don't want to see nothing but wrestling. Not that I don't think I don't think nothing but wrestling is bad. It's obviously, when it's all quality, then it's great. I like a little bit of talking. I like a little bit of promo work.
Well, Mick Foley just blogged about it, and it's true. He blogged about him and his son driving up from Atlanta, I don't know, or from Florida to Atlanta, or something like that, to see an NXT live event where one of the matches on the card was Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks, who that night wrestled for 20 minutes.
I did
an amazing match. Yeah. Then they just wrestled on Raw. They were given 4 minutes.
And
that's because you spend so much time talking about stupid, nonsensical stuff that, and I get it. You gotta build your storylines. But when we were kids watching wrestling, storylines were built in the ring with wrestling, with run-ins. Yeah. You can't have run-ins with everything. But your backstage promos and all that other garbage that you're, like you said, saturating the product with, all that stuff was done as a split screen while the wrestler was walking to the ring.
Yeah.
And
there's you tighten it up and you improve the product. I absolutely agree with. I mean, because all the stuff that I like about wrestling existed 20 years ago, and it was, to me, the best part. It's the best wrestling was. And I mean, obviously, the argument can be made about the 80s and 70s and all, like, the legends. I wasn't around for the legends. I didn't watch that, and I'm fine in saying that. For me, the 90s is wrestling to me. And I mean, everything I loved about wrestling was right there. And now, I mean, it is. I'm not going to watch at 8 o'clock. And maybe 9 when my kids are asleep. I can get out to the TV and watch it. But, like, you're asking a huge commitment from your fans on that. Anyway, thank you, man. Thank you for coming to do this.
Thank you for having me.
So fun talking to you. It was so fun catching up with you. And as I do with all my guests, I want to make sure that you want to come back one day.
Definitely.
And we'll just talk, shoot the shit about whatever.
Works for me.
As I said in the beginning of the show, at one point, we had plenty of heart-to-hearts, and you were there for me at some of my lowest points in my apparently emo mid-20s life. I mean, I was an emo a teenager, but I'd reckon to say I was probably an emo in the mid-20s too. But you were there for some of my low points, so you have always been a great friend to me. So thank you for doing this. Hope you do come back.
Definitely.
And we will make sure there's more details for the next UWF show, whether it be on, inserted in this podcast or a post on our Twitter and Facebook, which you can find us on awesomepodcast.com. You can tweet with us at That Entertains, and you can find us on facebook.com/TEntertainment. For Everything is Awesome, I'm Kev.
I'm C-Robb.
Talk to you next time.
Everything is Awesome is produced by Crude Humor Studios. For more information about the podcast, please visit us online at awesomepodcast.com. Or if you're interested in advertising on the show, please email us at advertising@crudehumorstudios.com. Stream and download all episodes on iTunes. While you're there, please consider leaving a 5-star review. If you're a fan of the show, please let us know by following us on Twitter and Instagram at That Entertains.